Hey girl, stop breathing. You're right on time. Ride this wave, let your heart unwind. Ooh, here's your space, your truth, your sign.
Welcome, everyone, to Conscious Rebel. I want you to notice something with me. And it's not a sensation this time, but the absence of one. Notice what isn't pulling at you right now. Maybe no one needs you. Nothing is on fire. There are no to-do lists with your name on it. For some of you, that absence feels like peace. And for some of you, if you're being honest, it feels like nothing at all, a flatness, a quiet that doesn't feel like rest. It feels like a room someone forgot to furnish. Nobody warns us about this part. I'm Kathy Lee Taylor, and today we are talking about what's actually in the room after you release what was never yours. So let me say what I released, not a habit, not a belief, something bigger and harder to see. Really, I released everything that was never my choice in the first place. It felt like an invisible tidal wave. I was daughter, wife, mother, caregiver, employee, helper, peacemaker, on and on. So please hear me on this. I'm not saying those roles were wrong. Some of them were amazing. Some of them held real love. And I'm saying, though, that I never really stood at the doorway and chose them. They were waiting for me when I arrived. The world kind of handed me a job description before I could even read. And I got excellent at these roles with decades of practice. I could feel what a room needed before the room knew. I could locate everyone's discomfort and resolve it before it became a problem. And that was my craft, even my genius, you could call it. It just was never really mine. And I know that now. Maybe you know your own list, like mine that I described above, the roles that arrived before you did. You can say them out loud silently if you want right now. Not with blame, but just acknowledging them. And here's the part I didn't understand until really recently. I want to be precise because this changes everything about what comes after. I am living inside of this talk right now. When you spend 60 years responding to what's asked of you, your motivation system gets built around the asking. The pull always came from outside, from someone else's need or their crisis or their expectation of me. And that pull was the fuel for me to act. And my body learned when something is asked of me, I do it. I move. I come alive. I know exactly who I am in that moment. Responding became the engine that drove me. And underneath the responding, there was something even older, and that is survival, that instinct to survive. The deeper knowledge that staying useful, staying needed, staying attuned, that's what kept everything from falling apart. Maybe even what kept me from falling apart for a long time. So the system worked. For decades, it worked beautifully. Nobody ever had to ask me what I wanted, least of all myself. There was no gap in the schedule where that question could land, really. I was always so busy. But then the asking stopped. My children grew. I should say my child grew. The roles that I was carrying are done. And so I just set them down. And that survival pressure that I felt all along, it finally lifted. It looked totally different to me. And here is what no one really tells you about this kind of change, this transformation, this release that happens as we age. You don't walk into freedom and find your real life waiting there like luggage at a carousel. You walk into a quiet room, empty, silent, with nothing pulling at you. Can you feel that? I'll tell you what it's like for me right now. This is my story. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm telling you what I'm going through at the age of 69. I'm really right in the middle of it right now. I'm inside of this whole experience, learning it as I'm speaking to you about it. Um, so I know what I love about life, about myself, about the things that I like to do. And somehow it feels like inside that that's not enough to move me anymore. Remember, I was talking about that engine driving me, nothing pulling at me. But the things I love don't pull at you like those other things did, like the survival things did. I think about the things that I used to do that would motivate me or move me. And that was, I used to love to devour books. I loved art. I loved to draw, paint, do things like that. But now I can't get myself to open a book. And it's so odd. I don't know why. I feel my way toward what might call me, and mostly what I find is that quiet, stillness, silence, no answers. Not like it used to be. Not like I was on this treadmill just constantly working up something for me to get done. So it just, the essence of it is it just feels like a kind of flat, kind of quiet. And sometimes for me, there's anger. I'm not going to dress that up. I don't know if you have that, but I sure do. I get angry during this transition because I don't know where it's going and I want to let go and I want to grow and I want to be there for this next stage of my life. And I find it frustrating and it makes me angry sometimes. And that's probably the part of me that loves to control things. And that voice, that anger voice often sounds like things like sounds like why didn't you choose differently? All the things that you could have done up until this point instead of what you actually chose to do. And how much have I missed by making the choices that I did? Or maybe you think, "Oh, who could I have been if only I had fill in the blank." I hope this is resonating with you and that you can relate to the kind of questions that I'm talking about. The anger kind of feels like a problem I don't particularly even care to solve. It's just there. Don't have to try to get rid of it because I'm kind of angry about being angry sometimes. I'm just telling you it's here, sitting in the room with me, and I'm not making a big fuss to change it. And oftentimes, this process that I'm going through feels like it's living in the heart center. For me, it may be different for you in your body. Just, check. Like for me, if I feel where the energy that I'm talking about is playing, it's playing in my heart center. Do the same for yourself. Check your body and feel where it is. For me, it feels like someone kind of let the air out of a very big balloon. My big balloon. And it feels kind of sad and it's definitely disruptive. And underneath this sadness, there is a really tender part, and that is a kind of grief that I feel for my childhood self. The child in me who never got her chance to live by her own rules. by the things she wanted to be pulled by. And I'm kind of sad for her. And I have this picture of a 5-year-old that is myself on my desk here. And oftentimes I look at her during the day when I'm working and I'll think, I'm sorry. Like it's my fault. But I feel for that little person. There's a sadness there. And if any of that is true for your body, just know that you're not broken. You're not broken. You're noticing different things at this stage. So just stay with me. We're going to talk about it. So let me show you what it looks like on an ordinary afternoon for me, because it's not dramatic for sure. And this is one of the probably frustrating parts of coming from a highly productive life to slowing down so much that, maybe an afternoon looks like a fun trip to Michael's, which often happens on the weekend. The other day, I just bought a watercolor book, some pencils and brushes, and kind of felt fun. And, that whole startup package that you do, and then oftentimes don't even do anything with it, but it was drawing me in. So I went. And, when I was a kid, I used to draw from the Mad magazine characters. Remember those comic books? Well, they weren't really comic books, they were a magazine, Mad Magazine. And I loved the illustrations in there. And I used to draw those and really enjoyed it. So I came home and I opened the book, started to draw a little bit just from things that I had been thinking about. And it felt familiar. My hand kind of remembered, when I used to do it. It's kind of like being an athlete, and you do an exercise long enough, it gets embodied. And it was a little exciting because I remembered, and I tried the watercolors, and it was like playing for a little bit. And I was completely unsuccessful in creating anything but a blob of water and color and, some pencil drawings under it. But here's where it got really interesting. I felt the anger come up. Not at the painting, but at the starting over. That's interesting, right? I was able to identify where that anger was coming from, at the idea that I have to be a beginner again and climb some learning route again. Like, for what at my age? Like, was so annoyed. It just feels like, if I have to keep doing this over and over again, it's probably just going to end up in the same unfulfilling, not rewarding spot. And I felt like I just don't want to go forward or go through with any of that. And I feel like I'm definitely not going backwards. So now what? Now I'm stuck in the doorway, not in, not out. And then, of course, my mind shows up, as it inevitably always does. And this voice probably. It's bright and encouraging and kind of sounds like trying to convince you. Maybe, Kathy, there's an artist buried inside of you. Maybe this is your new chapter. So I told it to fuck off. Sorry for those that word offends, but that's exactly how I felt. Because that voice is the old engine in me trying to restart, literally on fumes. It wants to hand me a new role, the role of the artist. Before I've even finished grieving the old ones that I've just let go of, it wants to fill up the room, put the furniture in the room now, because it can't stand the quiet. I talk about this a lot when I teach people how to meditate. It's hard to be in the silence at first. And at this stage of life, I'm running up against the same thing in a different form. I'm learning the difference between what is a genuine pull, calling, yearning, and when is the mind just manufacturing stuff. They don't feel alike at all. So here's the reframe on what I've been just describing. And I want to be a little careful here because I'm not going to promise you anything that I haven't lived already myself. I remember I'm talking about this from inside of the experience. I'm not on the other end trying to convince you that you should go one way or the other. I probably wouldn't do that anyway, but just so you know, this is where I am. I currently believe that this is what's true about the flatness. The engine is quiet because the old fuel is gone, right? Those patterns, habits, callings, yearnings, they're all gone. But the engine hasn't died. For 60 years, that system ran on being needed, on survival, on the pull from the outside world and what it needed from me. And now it feels like none of those things move it any longer, right? The fuel it was built on really no longer exists. So no one ever showed it that there's another fuel possible. The body isn't refusing to want. It's simply never once in its entire life been allowed to generate a want from inside with nothing else at stake. Let me repeat that because I said one word wrong. The body isn't refusing to want something. It's simply never once in its entire life been allowed to generate a want from the inside with nothing at stake. This silence, the one that feels like uselessness, listens. Maybe you have maybe you two have never heard your own life without alarm running underneath everything. And maybe for the first time you don't have that and it feels and sounds so foreign to you. You're not hearing emptiness. You're hearing your life when the siren finally goes off and you have no memory or reference points for what it's supposed to sound like anymore. And that flatness, this is the important part, is not dysfunction. It's an accurate reading of what's happening. And that's okay. It's your system telling the truth. The old way you used to move is over, and the new way really hasn't introduced itself yet. You don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how it's going to work. That's where I'm sitting now. I can't tell you when it introduces itself. I'm not you. You're not me. I'm here right now in the quiet with you. So maybe I'll be talking about how it changes for me in the future. I have a feeling because some stuff came up from doing this podcast, which has been really interesting that I do plan to talk about in the next one. But I want to tell you what it can feel at this moment because it matters more than I really thought it was, and that more than I thought it would, and that is I can feel kind of a relief, kind of a relaxation and a rest. The absence of stress is something my body notices now, and I'm able to receive it. I was not able to receive that before because I was always way too busy, way too focused on other things. And I've made a practice of that receiving every morning. So I get up and I do some Tai Chi, a few movements that I learned that kind of shake off the unsettled energy in my body, kind of ground me, make me feel like, I've got a body, I'm in a body I can trust. And it's working well for me. It's kind of like a daily reminder to live in that kind of feeling inside of my body. It's my body language. I'm telling my body that it's safe now. And that is really important to me right now. I do the work that's rebuilding my spine and my posture. I have a back issue. And so I do the exercises that my physical therapist gave me so that I can get stronger in my core and I don't have pain when I'm walking. So I'm talking to my body most of the day. And sometimes it's about food and nutrition and about walking and about sleep and about stress and about meditation. And, in the evening, I'll let myself watch a little TV and actually do nothing, which was never on my agenda, pretty much ever. But I don't audit it and I don't judge myself about it. I just allow myself to have these little pieces of freedom when I want to. And so any voices that come into play, and tell me I should be, being more creative, doing this, doing that, just let it go. Let it go. Even when the silence is uncomfortable, let it go. Because you're allowing a space to be created that something else will grow into. For a while, I really thought I was just managing and coping and just killing time until something really important would arrive. I don't think that anymore. That was definitely my ego playing games with me. If the body were numb, relief wouldn't register either, but it does, which means that the system isn't dead, it's down regulating. I hope that makes sense to you. After decades of running the engine really hot, my body, it does the first honest thing it has ever been allowed to do, and that's come all the way down. Relax, stop stressing, operating from an entirely different new level. And it turns out that that's not the absence of life. It might even be the foundation being poured for one. That's what I think is happening in this third stage of my life. A new foundation is being poured for an entirely different way of being and living. And I need to just be patient as it grows and as I learn what that will look like for me. The body needs to learn to be fully safe so it can feel brought into the new place that it's going to be. And I don't know what that looks like. I'm not certain about anything, but it's truthful. And it's the truth in the quiet that I've been able to find so far. I hope that makes sense for you. So I'm not going to end this episode with what comes next. I don't know what's coming next, honestly. I'm in the room with you. It's quiet. For me, there's grief in here and there's some anger and a girl I'm finally sitting with instead of stepping over her and her needs. And there's a watercolor book on the table that may or may not even get any attention. And it's all okay. And every morning, there's a body that for the first time in its life gets to be safe and nothing asked of it. Woo! The emotion that just poured through my body saying those words tells you everything you need to know. This is all that matters right now. And that's perfectly okay. Every morning, my body, for the first time, gets to feel safe and nothing is being asked of it. And I'm getting to learn what it is that I really want to do and be for the rest of my life, probably, or who knows, maybe I'll change in another year. You never know. So if your room is quiet too, just know that this is not a failing. You completed something. You completed a huge stage of your life. Something enormous, really. And the quiet is just what it sounds like after the finishing. Okay? I would just want to leave you with that idea that everything is going to be okay. You will learn what this new phase means and how to live it in a beautiful, expressive, unique kind of way. We aren't taught, nobody talks about how to sit in the unfurnished room, in the quiet, in the silence. We're actually taught to just fill it up, fast with stuff, noise, laughter, talk, people, work, whatever it is. But I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to fill up the space with anything but what comes through me to be expressed from my inner expression. And that's all I'm going to let pull me. So take a deep breath and tell your body to relax. Do one with me. Breathe in for 4, out for 8. I'm Kathy Lee Taylor. This is the Conscious Rebel podcast, where the revolution starts in your heart, even when the heart is quiet. And if you want some kind of invitation for today, just once this week, when the flatness shows up in your life, say to yourself inwardly, this is what finishing looks and sounds like. And stay one extra minute in the room without trying to fill it up with anything. Doesn't need any furniture. Doesn't need any fixing. Doesn't need doesn't need you to do anything for it. Just enjoy 1 minute of undisturbed quiet on purpose. I'm so happy you showed up. I can't wait to talk to you in the next episode. Big love. If something settled in you as you listened, that's enough. You don't need to do anything with it. Just let it land. Until next time, I see you. Be fearless. Be authentic. Be the rebel you are.